It's our supportive atmosphere and our positive atmosphere. I want the emphasis to be on educating and nurturing dancers, as well as helping the dancers and teachers network. Networking was always something that I was naturally pretty good at, and it just comes in handy. Dancers a lot of times meet other dancers at summer programs, and I ran into some of my summer program dance friends in college and then later at auditions. So the dance world is so small, so I want to help them start their networking.
I'm Caitlin, a former professional ballerina turned dance educator and career mentor, and this is the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I am here for the aspiring professional ballerina who wants to learn what it really takes to build a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. I'm peeling back the curtain of the professional dance world with open and honest conversations about the realities of becoming a professional dancer. Come along to gain the knowledge and inspiration you need to succeed in a dance career on your terms. Hello and welcome to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Sloan, and I am joined today by Carrie Euker. Carrie has danced professionally with Milwaukee Ballet, David Taylor Dance Theater, Seven Dancers, and Missouri Contemporary Ballet. She's the founding artistic director of Etoile Dance Competition and currently a full-time faculty member at the Boston Ballet School. Carrie's also one of my dear friends and probably the most mentioned person on this podcast. So I'm so glad we're finally able to sit down and have a conversation together. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's start from the beginning, how I always start. Why did you take your very first dance class?
I took my first dance class because I have two older sisters and they danced. So I just wanted to do whatever they did.
What was your training like growing up?
It was pretty well-rounded and more, I guess you'd call it recreational. My teacher that I started out with and had my entire 14 years of training was Kathy Nelson. She was a former Rockette. The training was really strong in tap and jazz. And of course, ballet was extremely valued as well. And then as I got a little older and more interested in ballet, I started taking ballet at other studios to kind of supplement that training. And then by high school, I was pretty into the ballet, but not at all willing to give up the other styles either. So my training was pretty well rounded.
Mm-hmm. And then how did you decide to attend college for dance?
Well, my parents were kind of like, you're going to college, and which was a good decision. I wasn't ready to go out into the professional dance world yet anyways, and education is, highly valued in my family as well. So there was no question ever that I was not going to go to college. So the question was, do I major in dance? Can I double major? Where should I do that? I was very lucky. One of my teachers brought me with her. She taught at Interlochen. And she brought me with one summer. I had to audition and everything, but got in, went up to Interlochen and was essentially recruited by Tana Hunter at Mercyhurst. And I ended up going to Mercyhurst for dance. I guess it was sort of luck how I ended up there and majoring in dance. I did do some other auditions for dance majors and everything, but the Mercyhurst thing just sort of fell into place and ended up being a great place for me too.
After college, what was your transition into a professional career like?
Oh gosh, that senior year of college was full of auditions and road trips and cattle calls, videos being sent out via VHS tape, and not a lot happening in terms of getting anything, like getting jobs or anything. So what I ended up doing, I had previously gone to the Milwaukee Ballet School Summer Intensive a couple times before. So I made plans to attend that 6-week intensive again. And that's where you audition for the second company. At that point, I was like, okay, if I don't get into the second company, I'm going to chiropractic school. I had my application turned in.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of joke around with my chiropractor that chiropractic was my backup plan. He laughed at that. So I did the 6-week intensive and ended up getting a spot in MB2 and went there. So I spent 2 years in MB2. And from there, it was just, again, lots of auditioning, figuring out next steps, and everything sort of seemed to fall into place for me. I think dancing professionally is a lot of luck. It's a lot of networking. It's about being in the right place at the right time, who you know, and just going with that. I didn't really have a great plan. Let's see, after MB2, again, we had gone to all kinds of cattle call auditions in Chicago. It was actually a lot of fun. We had fun doing it. But I ended up with a job in Denver with this smaller, newer company called Seven Dancers. And I was thrilled because I was getting paid, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, like a little bit more than I was making at MB2. And so I was like, yes, this is great. And then I remember being so upset because I got this call from the director saying, oh, we just wanted to let you know that, like, due to funding, we have to put off our season until January, which was really only like 4 months later. But to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so devastating. What am I going to do? My moving truck comes on Tuesday. And I was sitting at dinner. I was out at like rock bottom on the patio in Milwaukee on the river eating, and was kind of like lamenting to a friend, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then this bird pooped on my head in the middle of dinner. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a good omen. I have to go to Denver. I'm going anyways. And so my friend was like, okay, most people would be really upset that they just got pooped on, but you're like happy about this. So I went to Denver and I ended up working out, getting some teaching hours at the studio that the company was affiliated with. So I'd be able to pay my rent. They had adult classes 3 mornings a week that I could take for free. And then I also went and took some open classes in Boulder and was able to keep up my training. And then the ballet mistress there told me to audition for the David Taylor Nutcracker because they hire a lot of extras for their Nutcracker. And so that's how I ended up with David Taylor. So again, it was just sort of like luck, just really flying by the seat of my pants a little bit and just seeing what was in store. And then I ended up just loving my 3 years in Denver. And that was also when I had a really great opportunity to be mentored in terms of teaching by a couple people. Stephanie Prosenjack was one and Jocelyn Lapson was another. I learned so much about teaching. I always loved teaching. I had natural ability for it, liked the classroom management aspect of it. But in terms of getting into the nitty gritty and ballet training and what's age appropriate and how the progression works, Jocelyn was just so helpful in that. I got a ton of experience there too. Like, they threw me into all these classes and it was totally awesome. Not to mention awesome performance opportunities as well. So I had a really great time there. And then I was just kind of looking for the next step artistically and started auditioning again. My backup plan at that point, if I didn't get any other company jobs, I really wanted to change it up. And so my backup plan was I was going to move to LA and stay on my friend's couch and give the commercial industry a whirl, because I had made some connections through Seven Dancers in that aspect too. So that was my backup plan. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that backup plan because I don't think my parents really would have approved of that. But I was, in my late 20s at the time. So I would have done it anyways. But Karen Grundy gave me a job at Missouri Contemporary Ballet. And when I went there and I did the audition, the rep, I was like, yes, this is so fun. This is kind of bringing back my jazz training, and the point work was really hard. And so I was excited about that. And MCB, that was where I really felt I blossomed as a professional. I felt like I had arrived.
Yeah.
And that was just a really great home for me in terms of performing and dancing. And then that brought on so many other opportunities too. When I was at MCB, Karen approached me and she was like, so you're getting your MBA. How would you like to start a school? And I'm like, well, I'm not done yet. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea. And she's like, no, it's a great idea. We're going to start a school. You're going to be the director. I'm like, okay. So we did, and that was awesome. I totally learned as I went, but I had Karen, her support, and she was backing me up. It was just a really cool experience to start something from the ground up. From there, we started all kinds of programming, like the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, Dance Reach, and then Danceability, which then, of course, when you took over, totally made that flourish and kept it going. And it was just so awesome to be part of the beginnings of all that and get that experience. I think it served me well now, because now I get to work in city dance here in Boston. And at any rate, after dancing professionally, I started my family, directed a youth ballet, continued teaching, then found myself here in Boston. And now I teach on full-time faculty at Boston Ballet School and direct Etoile. So that's my story.
And I was saying to you before we started talking, you are so multifaceted. You've done so many things that I was like, I don't even really know how to organize my thoughts around what I want to ask you because I have so many questions about your career. You always had other things you wanted to do. You've always had this brain that's like, I got to try different things, had backup plans. Is that something that's just innate for you? Did you learn that?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I think when you go into the arts, it's kind of drilled into you from maybe non-artists, like you better have a backup plan. Like
Hmm.
what happens if you break your leg or something? And it's kind of horrible to think, but my backup plans were always sort of dance related. Like even when I was wanting to go to chiropractic school, I was interested in it because of dance and would have probably worked with dancers somehow had I gone that route. So I don't think I ever planned on getting out of the dance field altogether, but just sort of like keeping options open and also just being open to things too that were opportunities that came my way. So whatever was presented, just be ready for it.
When it comes to dance ticketing solutions, I have tried them all, and honestly, none can hold a candle to DRT, the premier online ticketing provider for dance studios. Whether you're planning a recital, a summer camp, or the Nutcracker, DRT is the one I recommend over and over again. So, what sets them apart? DRT offers turnkey solutions and custom ticketing sites completely free. Plus, their dedicated customer service team works extended hours to support both you and the dance studio and your patrons. I have been lucky enough to experience their incredible customer service firsthand, and I am always blown away. No request is too crazy. They always find a way to make it happen so that you can sit back and focus on the dancing, knowing your customers are in great hands. Are you ready to get started? Tap the link in the show notes to learn more and be sure to mention that the Brainy Ballerina referred you. How have you been able to balance all of this? Because, like, for instance, at one point you are doing your MBA and running a school and dancing professionally. Now you have full-time teaching, you own a dance competition, you have children. What is the secret to doing everything?
Staying off Facebook. No, I'm just kidding.
Social media is
um,
a time suck, yeah.
yeah. No, I think it's just time management skills. And now that I have kids, it's kind of like, I don't want to say my standards are lower in terms of getting things done, but I feel like I live in a state of like, well, this project isn't done, this one's not done, but it can wait, and sort of bouncing around from project to project a little bit more, and just sort of accepting the fact that like not everything is going to be complete all at once. My house is not always going to be clean. The laundry's never going to be done. Just focusing on what needs to be focused on and multitasking, prioritizing, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Now at this point, it's a little bit like living in a constant state of craziness with the kids, but you know how that is.
Yeah, your baseline gets a little different for how much
Yeah,
like craziness you accept. Whereas before I would have been like, oh my gosh, my house is a mess. And now I'm just like, it is what it is.
exactly.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite role that you danced or like favorite moment from your professional career?
Oh my gosh, I always loved the roles where I got to be like a little over the top, whether it be being funny or like a death scene. So there was one, oh, what was that piece called? Nigel and Mary. It was choreographed by
Yes.
Karen. And at the end, I got to die on the bed. That was so fun.
Oh, I love
I
it.
loved that moment. That was a good time. I loved originating the role of Alice in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. That was a lot of fun to originate a role with the brand new score by Tom Andes. That was just so cool to be part of that.
Yeah. I want to go back into the teaching a little bit because I kind of think this is going to, lead us into the competition conversation. But I'm curious, when you're teaching and when you're working with students, What is your teaching philosophy?
Nowadays, my teaching philosophy is more about instilling confidence and self discipline in the students and teaching to the whole person while passing on my love of the art form. My teaching philosophy, I think when I was younger, would have been more like technique oriented and that kind of approach. And now I'm like, yes, I'm teaching ballet technique, but I'm teaching a person, and not all of these little people are going to go on to dance professionally, but we can create an appreciation for the art form and grow future arts lovers. But also, just these kids get so much confidence from ballet. And it's so wonderful to watch. And they learn self discipline and just how to be respectful in a learning environment. They carry these skills all throughout their life. So I think my teaching philosophy is way more focused on that aspect.
I agree that mine's kind of evolved in that way too, where you start to realize you can't teach the technique without approaching it that way first. You
Right.
can't get people on board and wanting to be excited about learning if you're not coming at it from the sense of these are individual people who have bad days or who have things going on in their life. And that we're always taught that like philosophy of leave it at the door. And it's almost like, well, what if we just talked about it for a few minutes and then we felt better or we used it? Like, how many times have I been having a bad day and I use that to like fuel my Grand Allegro or something because it just felt so good to like get it out in that way instead of being like I have to forget about it.
Totally. Yes, totally. I had a roommate who was always late to go into work. And so we'd be all mad because we didn't want to be late for work. Obviously, we
Yeah.
carpooled. And I had the best classes on those days.
Right? You can use that.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about Etoile. So, you are the artistic director of a competition, and can you just explain to us a little bit about what Etoile is?
Yeah, so Etoile is a dance competition with a focus on concert dance styles, so mostly ballet and contemporary and modern. I guess I'll back up to why I started Etoile. I saw a need for it when I had a youth ballet that I was directing, and we used to go to the Youth America Grand Prix. We loved, I guess, maybe the pressure of doing that 1 minute variation in front of an audience on a pretty prestigious stage. They also love the process of learning the variations, which, if you join a classical company, you're not going to always do the principal roles. You're going to do the core work. So it's kind of a nice opportunity to learn a variation like that. Plus, the length of them is good. It's a good length for a solo. There were a lot of things to gain from going to this ballet competition, but it wasn't like they were placing or getting jobs at ABT or anything like that. So I was like, wouldn't it be nice to have a competition that incorporated all the bells and whistles of a more mainstream dance competition, which at the time I was also doing a lot of judging. And I thought we need to blend these two aspects together and have a ballet competition that's a little more inclusive with different entry levels, and also kind of put the focus on artistry as opposed to being able to do a zillion pirouettes on point. Also, have a place for dancers that are maybe college bound dancers, but not looking to dance professionally, or maybe they are after college, but not, okay, we're going to ABT or the Royal Ballet right after high school type of thing. And there are tons of dancers. Obviously, I was one of those dancers, and you went to college too. So
Mhm.
I just felt like there was a market for this type of competition. So that's how Etoile was born.
What do you think sets Etoile apart from other dance competitions?
I hope that it's our supportive atmosphere and our positive atmosphere. I want the emphasis to be on educating and nurturing dancers, as well as helping the dancers and teachers network. Networking was always something that I was naturally pretty good at, and it just comes in handy. Dancers a lot of times meet other dancers at summer programs, and I ran into some of my summer program dance friends in college and then later at auditions. So the dance world is so small, so I want to help them start their networking. I want the competition to be, sure, it's competitive and dance is competitive. There aren't that many jobs, and we're all competing for those same few jobs, but I want it to be supportive and encouraging and positive and uplifting and inspiring and
Mhm.
all those things. So I hope that that is what sets Etoile apart from other competitions.
Yeah. And I think from being a judge and having that opportunity, I think some things from a logistical standpoint that I've noticed, just even the way the critiques are done and having the judges speak live critiques during the piece is really cool. Correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't been to YGP in maybe 5 years, but in my past experience, you're just getting a sheet of like check marks or X's on different things and then maybe a few sentences if you're lucky of
Yeah.
feedback, so you're not always getting as much. And I really like how you place an emphasis on the corrections. And so it's not just did you place or not, you're getting something more out of this experience from judges who have professional ballet, contemporary, modern experience.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been to YGP in a while either, but that's how it was when I was taking students. And the thing I love about the audio judging is that you can just really get into a lot of detail on something specific. Like maybe it's this first piqué arabesque, and you could talk for an entire minute about that piqué arabesque, but I feel like that's valuable feedback, even if that's all you talk about. I think it's
Yeah.
great. So, and you can be, really articulate, or you can, fire off little things quickly as you see them. So there are different ways you can approach it as a judge. But I also, when I was judging myself, and it wasn't just ballet, it was more all styles that I was judging, but I felt like I really had a voice too. Like maybe if we angle this tilt such that the crotch is not towards the audience, it would be a little more flattering. Like I felt like I
Hmm.
could do some good in the dance world by
Yeah.
being able to voice my critiques. It is a skill though. It's hard
Hmm.
because you have to cram a lot into these short variations, but I always enjoyed it myself.
I agree. Ballet variations are repetitive. So you are seeing the same step like 3 times in a row. So you can kind of see it the first time and then talk about it the next 2 times they're doing it and be like, right here, that's where I'm talking about it. And you can really see exactly what you're saying. And I really liked too, like the last one that I was at in Indianapolis, you gave me the opportunity to talk to the dancers about careers and that kind of thing. And one thing I talked about was even I just took, okay, these were the top 5 corrections that I gave. You've at some point heard me say one of these corrections. So let me explain more what I meant by that. Let me like really expand on that so that if you hear this, you know exactly. And like the teachers could listen to it too. So they could go back and say, okay, let's work on this thing. The way you've set it up allows you to get so much deeper into it and truly be like mentored for the students as opposed to just like, I did my variation and now what? I think it's just a very well rounded setup. Does the mere thought of audition season make your palms start to sweat? Do you feel completely overwhelmed with getting everything together on top of your regular dancing schedule? I've been there, and I totally get it. As dancers, we spend hundreds of hours honing our technique and artistry. But when it comes to figuring out how to put together a resume or what to expect in a professional audition, we're often left to figure it out ourselves. That's why I put together the Ultimate Audition Guide. This is your one-stop shop for everything you need to tackle professional company auditions with ease. No more spending hours Googling and trying to piece together a somewhat coherent audition package. With this guide, you'll be ready to conquer audition season like a true professional. We're talking resumes, headshots, dance photos, dance reels, plus info on how to find auditions, what to wear, what to expect, how to budget, mindset tips, you name it, it is in this guide. You are ready for this moment. Head to the show notes, grab your copy of the Ultimate Audition Guide, and empower yourself with the knowledge to approach audition season like a true professional.
Another thing that I would hear or see on like social media on the dance teacher networks would be, oh, we took ballet to this competition and the judge scored us really low on the choreography. Well, talk to Pettipa about it. And
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
and so that was just kind of making me laugh. And so I'm like, well, this is a great place to bring your ballet because we know ballet. The judges are all obviously very versed in ballet. They're former ballet dancers and current educators, which I also think is important because teaching ballet and doing ballet are two totally different things. So having judges that know what they're watching is very helpful.
know what you're watching and then know how to articulate, here's what you can do to make it better instead of don't fall out of the pirouette. It's like, what if you did this and that would help fix it.
Right. And our judges have done these variations, performed them.
Right.
They know the choreography in and out for most of the variations. That feedback is so, so valuable too.
What do you think needs to change about competition dance culture to get people excited about it?
Oh man, that's a really big question. So, first of all, the ballet world isn't, not everybody's on board with this competition culture. The landscape of that is sort of changing because it's like, well, you can't compete art, it's
Hmm.
art. And then it's also ballet, it's concert dance. It's not meant to be competed. So this is just kind of like a whole concept that it can be off-putting, I think, to some ballet teachers and performers. However, it's out there.
Yeah.
Like YGP and some of these other prestigious competitions are here to stay. And with the addition of social media as well, ballet competitions, I don't think are going anywhere anytime soon. But I think it's a good opportunity for us as educators to sort of get a hold of it. The toxic part of social media, which is like posting your oversplits and that type of thing. So I think it's important that as educators, we stay ahead of it. And that might be through a competition. In terms of the competition culture, as far as the mainstream competition culture, I think it's just really important to educate our audiences too that dance is not, it shouldn't be cutthroat, like sabotaging your opponent's type competition. It should be more of a community event as well. So building community, again, back to the networking thing, just being like a more supportive competition. And there are definitely competitions out there that are like that. But I think it's just educating studio owners on what the goals are for Etoile specifically and making sure that atmosphere is what's being provided.
Did you do competitions growing up?
Not heavily. I did, you know what? I may have only done one and I
Yeah.
got third place. But it was also a convention. It was optional. I didn't go to a competition studio. It was fun. Not everybody wanted to go. It was like a handful of us that went, and we took all the classes, which I
Yeah.
loved. And I remember seeing Joe Rowan perform The Dying Swan, which was,
Wow.
now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, I was not a competition kid, not at all. But I do see the value in it. I think every opportunity to go on a stage is great because, as we know, the stage feels a lot different than the studio. But that's the fun part, getting the audience and the lights and everything and the costumes. Just the opportunity to perform is great. And the more practice you get at it, the better you get.
Right. And it's helpful too, like going to a different place and performing in front of new people or on a different stage than you're used to, because that's going to be a reality as a professional dancer. Like you might be on tour or whatever and have a whole new situation that you have to adapt to quickly. So you're learning how to do that in these situations. And I do appreciate that Etoile. One of the big things that you've always talked about is I want it to be in a theater. I want it to be on a stage with Marley, because for people who haven't gone to like some competitions that are maybe more mainstream. But again, not all are like this, but sometimes you will be like in a ballroom on a setup stage that's a little rickety, or you'll just be like on a carpeted floor or something like that where it's not really the same atmosphere as a theater. And that's something I
Mhm.
really appreciate too, that it's like we want this to have the vibe of a professional performance.
Right. On the other hand, though, I do have to say there is some benefit to performing on those rickety stages because remember, we did some performances like that.
Yeah.
It's professional.
I know. I was telling, what I was telling Steve, my husband, about our South Korea performances
Oh,
and our Goldilocks stage. Remember this? We were trying to find a stage. There was this huge expo center. And so we're like walking around and they're giving us some stage options. So the first one we went to was like this huge, gorgeous stage in like the forest almost. And it was beautiful, but it was wooden and it was monsoon season. And there was like holes in the stage, like because it
it
had
was like
started
flooded.
rotting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Karen was like, no, we can't dance here. And then they're like, okay. So then they brought us into almost like a lecture hall and showed us like another stage. And it was like the size of a queen bed and it was carpeted. And she's like, no. So it was kind of like, it's like the Goldilocks. Like it was, no, it's too big. No, it's too
Right.
small. And then we went to the final stage we ended up performing at and we walked up to it and it was the exact same size of our studio. It was Marley. And we were like, yeah, this is the way we need to dance. And they were like, oh, they're like, it's kind of a weird floor. We don't know. And we're like, no, this is a ballet floor.
This is perfect. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you never know. And it was like, what if there was no other option? Like, we might have ended up dancing. And, like, we had the experience of having to put the rubber on the point shoes to dance on the wood floor at
Mhm.
Missouri Stars, or like that one stage at, I don't even remember what that community festival was, but yeah, like Pretty Rickety.
Yeah.
It'll happen. You'll have situations where you're like, this is not the ideal stage. And you're right.
Right.
It is good to have that experience to an extent before it gets like dangerous and you're causing physical harm to your body because it's not safe.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, like gaping holes are probably not
No.
safe. But yes, venues for Etoile are pretty important, and we've had some adventures there already too. But knowing what's safe and what's not is helpful, just having that experience as a professional and being able to adapt quickly and act on the fly, make sure the Marley's taped, that kind of thing. Yes, the goal is to have beautiful theater venues with always Marley, definitely always Marley. That's non
Mhm.
negotiable. And having great lights and wings and everything, that whole theater experience is all part of it too.
Another thing that's really cool, I think, is that you have a master class before
Yeah.
competition starts. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So the goal of that is to have the masterclass serve as your stage warm up for the day. So the master classes are on stage, usually, or in a studio, and are taught by usually one of our judges, or if not, another teacher that's brought in to teach it. And it starts the day. So every day there will be a morning master class.
Yeah, which is really cool because I've gone on stage many times for competitions, not quite feeling great because you have a very limited space to warm up in and you're like in the dressing room trying to do your tendus, and it's tough, or you have like your 2 seconds that you can get on the stage and just test the floor or something. So like having that is really nice.
Yeah, warming up in a hallway, like holding onto a wall, is just kind of stressful. And of course, yes, dancers have to be able to adapt and
Yeah.
make it work, but that's not ideal. Also, that community building aspect of it, again, too, is taking class with everybody that's there, just kind of forms that community bond and gets everybody centered before going on stage, as opposed to like eyeing each other down in the hallways, like, who are you? Who are you? And like, that
Yeah.
and just being able to get on your leg and take that time, take those 90 minutes of ballet class to warm your body up, learn something new from the master teacher, hopefully, and get yourself ready for stage.
The educational component is a really big part of it. And I think for me, the benefit of attending competitions, like you said before, is the process before it and then also the education you get out of it. It's not what awards you get. That's like the smallest part of it. All of this that is baked into it is really, really cool.
I've had a lot of questions about awards lately too. I'll just talk about that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So we award top overalls. Usually it's a top 3, and that's the highest scores of the day or weekend. Then we award usually a top 3 or up to a top 10, no more than that, in each age category as well. So no, you don't win money, you don't win cash, no cash prizes. But you can win oftentimes scholarships to various summer intensives. We've partnered with summer program acceptances. You can win a Brainy Ballerina mentoring session.
Yes.
There are a lot
Hmm.
of lot of different things we've offered, and we're building that list as well. I taught in an intensive last summer where there were a few Etoile dancers that were there for that reason, and that was just like, oh, that was such a good moment. I was like, oh, this is it.
It's
This is what I
happening.
want. It's happening. So,
Yeah.
again, we're looking to help dancers build that network. The awards, though not cash prizes, you will definitely get something out of the networking.
It's more meaningful. Like it's the continuation of your career, getting to go to a summer intensive, or like you said, meeting someone that in the future you might see again or you'll work with. Look at us. We met dancing professionally, but now we've been able to do so many things together since. I've been able to judge for your competition because we know each other and because we have that network. And you're
Hmm.
like, yes, I worked with Caitlin. I trust her. I know she'd be good at this. I'll bring her in for this. You don't really know at the time. I wasn't like, I want to be Carrie's friend because someday I'm going to judge for her competition,
Right.
like,
Right.
but it's just those kind of things just kind of happen when you're in the industry. So this network you're building is really huge.
Yeah, I hope that students and also their teachers and directors would take advantage, reach out to us, reach out to the judges, reach out to me, bring my judges in as guest teachers. I am A-okay with all of that. I love that. So I
Yeah.
hope that, it creates opportunities for all of us, really. In terms of students, I encourage, I know what question is going to come at the end, so I'll try not to get too off base, but but just a little piece of advice for young dancers. Don't be shy. Like if you see me at I don't know, a summer intensive or whatever, like introduce yourself and say, hey, I know you from Etoile, or I did this, blah, blah, blah. Like we as adults and educators now, we remember you. We remember
Hmm.
students. And as a student, I would have been so shy. I never would have said anything to
Oh my
anyone
gosh, no.
unless there was like a really direct connection. But I wouldn't have just chatted anyone up. But like I would love it. I love to see what former students are up to, or hopefully competitors will reach out and keep us up to date on what they're doing. And just that community building and networking is so, so important.
Yeah, I think that is the key that you've mentioned so many times and just such a huge part of what you're building in the dance world. And so I think that for me is the biggest thing. Like when I look at Etoile, I'm proud to be a part of that community and part of that network. And like you said, meet people through it and just continue spreading this knowledge through the dance world beyond just that one day. It's so much bigger than that. And that's what's really exciting about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I know I'm going to ask you this. If you had to give aspiring professional dancers one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Okay, I thought about this. I'm going to go with this. Stay well rounded in your training, be versatile. You have to be good at all styles, and you've got to be ready and open to performing other styles. You can't just train in ballet these days, you've got to train in everything. Modern classes are so important. Don't skip your modern dance classes, go to modern.
Yes, yes, good.
um, but yes, try tap, try hip hop, try ballroom. Make sure you dabble in everything and just stay well rounded. And the more styles you do, the more information you can take in, the more open you'll be as a performer and as a dancer, and it'll just serve you well. So make sure you're going to all your classes.
Yes, love it. I love it. Okay, Carrie, can you tell us if a dancer is interested in learning more about Etoile, how can they find out about it?
Yeah, you can head on over to our website, etoilecomp.com, or you can follow us on social media. Our handle is Etoile Dance Comp.
And you have how many cities this year that you're going to?
6 cities this
6?
year. Yeah, we'll be in Indianapolis first in January, and then we're headed back to Baltimore, Boston. We've added Lexington and Erie and Rockford, Illinois, my hometown of Rockford, which
Yes.
I'm really excited about.
Which I love too, because whenever you come to Rockford, I get to see you being in
Yes.
Madison. So that's always exciting. Yeah. So if you're near any of those cities, definitely check it out. And I do like to say too that you can come with your studio or you can really come as an individual competitor too. You have dancers like that as well. So if it's something where you're like, I just want to go and get another performance opportunity, talk to your teachers about it, of course, first, but that's also a possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing, Carrie. Thank you so much for this. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. If you found this episode insightful, entertaining, or maybe a bit of both, I would so appreciate you taking a moment to leave a rating and hit subscribe. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll join our community of dancers passionate about building a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. Plus, your ratings help others discover the show too. I'll be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Brainy Ballerina for your daily dose of dance career guidance.